pre-Shavuot class. I'm so grateful to everyone who joined me in person and anyone who's watching this. I want to dedicate today's class to my Savta. I want to dedicate today's class to her because she was connected to Shavuot, and it's very meaningful to me. So her name was Chana Chaya Bas Chaim Mordechai. Her mother was Shprinza, but her father was Chaim Mordechai, so I guess now it's Chaim Mordechai. Chana Chaya Bas Chaim Mordechai. So this class should be for her schus, for the schut of all of our sons and husbands and all the chayalim for today's learning. Okay, so on a lighter note, so today's class is the Shavuot edition, but also the Sivan. So it's every month we have a Rosh Chodesh class, and we talk about the spiritual energies of the month of that month. Every month, according to Kabbalah, has a shifting new energy that we can tap into. But because it's Shavuot, we're going to combine it with also Matan Torah and everything we need to do, and we'll pack it in one. If you need to leave, no worries at all. So we're going to start off with the connection of women and Shavuot. It's actually the different source sheet that I didn't hand out yet. I'm handing it out right now. I have plenty of those, so everyone can have one. You can take two and pass. So in Shemos, in this week's, in the description of Matan Torah, when we are, just give a little bit of an overview of Matan Torah. Matan Torah happened in the year 2448, 49 days after leaving Mitzrayim. So just 7 weeks later, on the 1st of Sivan, they camp at the foot of Har Sinai. On the 2nd of Sivan, Moshe goes up and ascends to Har Sinai ascends the mountain to talk to Hashem, and Hashem tells him that he chose us to receive the Torah. Do we want it? Moshe comes back down, and what do we say? Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do it, and then we'll whatever it is, we'll do it, and then we'll hear the details. The 3rd of Sivan, Moshe comes back up to Hashem and tells him, the Jews said yes, they agree to your proposal, and then he tells them that they want to hear the Torah from you directly, not from me. They want to hear your voice talking to them. So Hashem agrees on the 3rd of Sivan, and then he tells Moshe on that day the rules of the next 3 days of not touching the mountain, of separating, and all the preparations they need to do. Then they have 3 days of preparation. On 4th of Sivan, we hear the praise of preparation. Now, there's a machloket about whether there was 2 days or 3 extra days of preparation, and that is why it's not clear if Shavuot is on the 6th or 7th of Sivan. That's why there's machloket about which day we actually keep it. We keep it on the 7th of Sivan, and that was the historical. That's the background of the days. On the 7th of Sivan, the Jewish people went to sleep the night before. We were told that there was a mistake. They shouldn't have gone to sleep. How could they sleep in such a time? And to make up for it, every year we stay up all night because the Jews went to sleep the night before hearing the Torah. Chassidut actually tells us that they went to sleep with holy intentions to connect spiritually, to connect to the highest lights, because when you're sleeping, your neshama ascends, and they wanted to tap into the holiest kedusha. But we learned that the main thing is to do mitzvahs down here, not above, and to rectify that we stay awake and learn Torah all night. Yay. So it is very special. So what happened on Matan Torah? They wake up to the sound of the shofar, unending, kol gadol v'lo yasaf, continuous sound of the shofar. There's thunder, and the pasuk tells us something unusual. It seems like a typo that they woke up and they saw the thunder. But it was not a typo, but we learned a lot of depth from that. I'm not sure if we'll get to it in this class, but what the deeper significance of that. Then later on in Devarim, in the repetition of the Torah, it actually tells us that they saw the lightning, that they heard the lightning. They heard the sounds, and that they saw that which was heard, and they heard which was seen. Then the Gemara in Devarim also, the pasuk tells us, kol gadol v'lo yasaf, that when Hashem spoke, there was no echo. There was tremendous miracles. The Gemara Shabbos 88a goes through tons and tons of miracles that happened on that day about the lightning and the thunder and the lack of the echo and the cloud of smoke, of dense smoke and fire that descended on the mountain, about how Hashem spoke in one language, in Lashon HaKodesh, and how it split into 70 languages, and everyone in the world heard Hashem's voice in their own language. It also says that anyone who was ill or unwell was healed at that time at Har Sinai, and many other miracles that are described in this giant, enormous time. Welcome. There's some cheesecake left. We'll pass you a plate.
Which one? Read it from sets of.
All right, obviously. I haven't seen you in so long. Hi, this is Wendy Ortega, a good friend. Do we have a seat? Oh, so first I'm using the ladies first, and then I'm going to go to the other one. Both. I actually need a copy of the ladies first one. Oh, I have it. Okay. Going back to when Moshe was talking to Hashem before the coming of the. One more thing is Hashem said. So according to what he in compliance with what Hashem promised us, Hashem Himself spoke the first one of the Seres Dibros, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, And what happened was that there was too much light for our little bodies to handle, and everyone's soul left their bodies. Everyone died. It's like pouring boiling hot water into a thin glass cup. It can't handle. Our bodies were not holy enough to handle that light, and everyone's soul left their bodies. So Hashem revived us, it says, with the tal, the dew of Tchias HaMesim that comes from Torah, the tal of Torah, and we were ready to hear the next one. And he says, Lo, in Hashem's voice, he said, Lo ya lecha Elokim acherim, and the same thing happened again. Everyone's neshamos left their body. Hashem revived us again, and we said, okay, that's enough. We'll hear the rest from Moshe Rabbeinu. Rav Sadia Gaon holds that all of the Lo Saseh were included in Lo ya lecha Elokim acherim, and all of the mitzvahs aseh were included in Anochi Hashem Elokecha. There's many commentaries that explain how. So really, in truth, we heard all of them, all of these Seres Dibros from Hashem himself. Now, that's just a little bit of what happened on that day. Maybe we'll get to talking about the deeper significance of these miracles, why they had to happen, what they really mean. But going now back to when Moshe was having these conversations with Hashem prior to giving the Torah. If you're in the source sheet, Shavuot ladies first, in Shemos Yotes Gimel, it says, Moshe ala Elohim v'yikrei lav Hashem min hahar leimar. Hashem calls out to Moshe from the mountain saying, Ko tomar lebeit Yaakov, so you should say to Beis Yaakov v'sagi lebnei Israel. The commentaries say, Rashi right away says, what's Beis Yaakov and Sagi lebnei Israel? What's the difference, right? We both were coming from Yaakov and Yisrael. Rashi says, Elu hanashim, he brings to the Mechilta, Tomar lahem b'lashon rakah. So he says, first Tomar lebeit Yaakov, first tell in a lashon of Tomar, of Amirah, different than the men, in a more gentle way. To the women, all of the laws, and what are the laws of the Torah, and then Sagid in a more direct, harsh way, Livnei Israel, to referring to the masculine men. And this is the source of why so many girls' schools were called Beit Yaakov, because according to this, Beit Yaakov is the women. Now, we're going to go deeper into that. Why the women first before the men? So there's many different answers. Some of the answers revolve around that Hashem says, when I created the world and I gave Adam Arishon the instruction not to eat from Eitz Hadas, I told man first, and look what happened. He sinned right away. So this time, I'm not going to make the same mistake, and I'm going to tell the women first so that the mistake doesn't happen. I'm going to make sure I tell the women first and then the men, because things got lost in translation when I said it to the men, and then they repeated it. He repeated it to Chava. He mixed it up. But right. And then their commentaries say two different schools of thought actually on this idea. One says, tell the women first, because they're more rebellious. Like Chava was so rebellious, you make sure you tell her first so she doesn't hear it secondhand, so that she hears it directly from you and she doesn't rebel. The other commentary says, no, women are much more righteous. Tell her first so she makes sure that Adam is checked in the line. You could choose whichever commentary you prefer. Chassidut says it's even deeper than that. There's a way deeper, something much deeper going on here with Hashem talking about ladies first. And in fact, it goes really far in history. It says that this is Hashem telling Moshe, Ko tamar lebeis Yaakov, first say to the women, then the men. He's actually changing the way that the entire history of how things have worked until now in the Torah. If you look in the Torah, until Matan Torah, for 2,500 years, nearly 2,500 years, everything was masculine first. Hashem created Adam Arishon first, then created Chava. He told Adam Arishon the Tzivoy first, then he told Chava. If you look in the next source, Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, when we speak about Noach and his children going on the Teva, Noach and his family, in the source to number Hey, Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, Ba Noach, V'Shem V'Cham V'Yafes, B'nei Noach, V'Eshes Noach. First the men, the sons of Noach went, and then Eshes Noach U'Shloshes Neshei. Then his wife and the children went on the Teva. It wasn't like it's the opposite of like evacuating people off a ship, right? First the women and children go, by him it was the men, then the women went afterwards on the evacuating ship. Later on again, if you turn the page, we see that when Yaakov put his children on his camels, Vayakam Yaakov Vayisa as Banav, who did he put first in the camels? The Banim, and then the Shav al Gmalim. First the boys, then the women on the camels. Not only that, Esav, Yaakov, when Yaakov and Esav, it says that Esav put his women first in the front camels, and it was considered a bad thing because he was putting his women like in the line of fire, and then like our friends in Gaza do, put the women in front and the men behind, to be like the shield. So that was, Esav was rebuked for that, and Yaakov was praised for putting the women behind the men first and behind the women, which is like always a controversy in shuls. Like the Rebbe actually pushed very much that women shouldn't be behind the men's in any shul, that they should be side by side, as much as possible, if possible. Anyway, he came into shuls and said women shouldn't be sitting behind; the mechitza should be in the middle, so that they're not like sitting behind you, which I thought was really beautiful. Okay, now or the women could be on top. That's also that's fine. Yeah. But as long as they don't feel like inferior. So that was a side tangent. Okay, so going back to this, we see that everything in history until Matan Torah was a masculine first world. There was the men first in historically, and now Hashem is saying that now we're about to get the Torah. First the women come the men. He's saying, I'm changing something in history. And we want to understand, because he says, why? Why change it? What happened? what's shifting now? So we're actually going to hold this question. This question is, what changed at Matan Torah that now we're shifting the order of masculine first to feminine first? So we're going to pause that question and now have to really uncover the behind the scenes of Matan Torah, of what changed on the Matan when we got the Torah. 2,500 years into creation on the 7th of Sivan, what changed? And the reason that it's a question is, what do you mean what changed? We got the Torah. The reason it's a question is because we learn in many places that the Torah was actually kept. The mitzvahs were all kept before we got the Torah. We see many mitzvahs given to us, like mitzvah Chodesh, the mitzvah of Shabbos, Avram Avinu got bris milah. But besides for all that, it's very clearly told to us that the Avos kept all of the Torah mitzvahs. In fact, it's even questioned, how could Yaakov marry two wives? Because he kept the Torah, two sisters, if he kept the Torah. So the premise is that the Avos and all of the Jewish people kept all of the Torah mitzvahs prior to receiving the Torah and Matan Torah. That makes us wonder, what was the chidush of the giving of the Torah if they already kept it? In fact, we learned that what was Shevet Levi doing when everyone else was working in Egypt? They were learning Torah. They already learned the Torah. It wasn't given to them as a scroll, but they were learning the Masorah of the Torah that was given to them from the Avos, passed down, right? Yaakov spent 14 years learning Torah with Shiva, Shem, and Ever before going down to Haran. So we have all these sources to teach us that they already learned Torah, and now we're receiving the Torah. So what is it actually, did anything actually change, or was it just like the official graduation ceremony where did anyone ever get an empty diploma at the graduation? Like an empty piece of paper, because the real one was like sent to you, they didn't want you to lose it. So it was like, was it just an official ceremony to mark something? You know, we already been keeping the Torah, but now let's make it official. Did anything actually change? So we go back into really depths of Torah to understand that what really happened, shifted cosmically in the world on this day of receiving the Torah, if they already were keeping it before now. So we're gonna get a little bit technical. And in the other source sheet now, not very technical, just go into a source to understand this even more, the difference. So the Rambam on Mishnah Torah says something crazy and shocking. He says, "V'sim libcha," this is ikar agadol. Pay attention with your whole heart to this foundational ikar. Hanichal b'Mishnah hazos v'hu masha amar misinai ne'esar lefisha ata har'esa ladas. He says everything that was forbidden to us at Har Sinai was forbidden because of what it says ata har'esa ladas. Shekol ma she'eno sha'anu marchikim ha'osim hayom eino no'asid ela b'mitzvahs hakadosh baruch hu al dei Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. Everything that we do and don't do today is only because of the mitzvah, the Hashem's commandment to Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom, v'lo shekadosh baruch hu amar zeh l'neviim shlefanav, and not because of Hashem saying it to the Nevi'im before Moshe Rabbeinu, before Har Sinai. Kagon, like for example, this that we don't eat a limb from a living animal, is not because Hashem forbade it to Noach. He says, and he goes on, he says, we're not eating a limb from a live animal. The same mitzvah. You don't keep the mitzvah because Hashem told Noach you can't eat a limb from a live animal. You're keeping the same mitzvah because Hashem commanded it to Moshe Rabbeinu later. Does it make a difference? It's the same mitzvah. And he continues and says, bris milah. We don't keep bris milah because Hashem commanded it to Avram. We keep it because Hashem commanded it to Moshe at Har Sinai. And he says, and so too, all the mitzvahs we only keep because of the revelation at Har Sinai. Now this, I guess, furthers the question of, what's the difference? It's the same Torah mitzvahs before and after. So this clearly helps us understand that there was a massive shift. Something changed in the way we kept Torah mitzvahs before and after Har Sinai. We have a pasuk, and to understand this, we have a pasuk in Tehillim. I'm not sure if I brought it for you, that we say in Hallel, Hashamayim, Shamayim LaHashem, Va'aretz Nisan Livnei Adam. And the Medrash Tanchuma brings this down. That's the first, it's brought down in the first source and behind the scenes of Matan Torah. Medrash Tanchuma says that, he quotes the Tehillim in the second line, Zesh Amar Kasav. Oh, he brings a different one. Kol Asher Chafetz Hashem Asav, V'Shamayim Va'aretz, Hashamayim Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashamayim Shamayim LaHashem, Va'aretz Nisan Livnei Adam. Do we have chairs? Amazing. We have cheesecake. Go, don't worry. Don't apologize. This is my friend Shira. She's a new Ola from last summer. She's awesome. You're new. So the Medrash brings down this pasuk and says that Hashem created the world in a way that the heavens belong to the domain of the spiritual, belongs to the heavens, the earth belongs to us, and there's no mixture. So the Medrash continues and says, he brings from the Tehillim, Mashal Lamad David Amar. What is a mashal for this? Lamelech Shagazer Va'amar, like to a king that says, B'nei Romi lo yardu l'Syria. The people of Rome can't come to Syria. Ubnei Syria lo yalu l'Romi, and the people of Syria can't come to Romi. And he made a barrier. He made a big wall between. I like to say it's more between the U.S. and Mexico. There was a king that commanded that the people of Mexico can't cross over, and he makes a huge wall, and no one's ever allowed to cross this wall ever to both directions. So too when Hashem created our world, Gazar va'amar. We're in this first source. Hashemayim shemayim la Hashem va'aretz hasan bnei Adam. Hashem made a barrier between spirituality and physicality, between the heavens and the earth. And he said that spiritual angels, the ruchnius stays up here, the materialistic stays down here. We can't cross, we can't mix the two. When Hashem, the Medrash says now when Hashem wanted to give the Torah, he canceled his decree. He annulled his decree. Harishona for the first time, Va'amar hatachtayonim yalu elyonim, ve'elyonim yedu tachtonim. The lower realms can now ascend to the higher realms, and the higher realms can now go to the lower realms. We took away the border, no visa needed. Va'ani hamatzcha, and he says, and I'm going to begin. Shenamar, like it says in Shemos about the giving of the Torah. V'yered Hashem al Har Sinai, and Hashem ascended on the mountain, came down to descend on the mountain, and then it says Va'alei el Hashem. He told Moshe, you can come up, and he broke down the barrier of upper and lower worlds. So we learn in Chassidut that based on this medrash that there was, even though we kept the Torah mitzvahs before Matan Torah, the way it was kept was only spiritually. That even when they kept the mitzvahs, the avos, there's two opinions brought down. One, it says that they didn't even put on tefillin. Rather than putting on tefillin, they had all of the kavanot about what tefillin is accomplishing. So tefillin is to align it's to align the mind and the heart together with Hashem. So that's why he puts tefillin on across the arms, but directly opposite the heart and on the mind. So they had all of those spiritual covenant without actually doing the actual mitzvah. Another opinion says that they made tefillin. Even the opinion that says that they actually did the mitzvah tefillin. Some says that Yaakov put it on with sticks tied to his arms. And then other opinions said that even if they had the cloth of tefillin, what would they do after? They would throw it in the garbage. Anything it didn't retain kedusha. So even the opinions that say that there was holy objects, because there was a barrier, because the materialistic world or the physical world wasn't able to be affected by the spiritual world, was a barrier. Therefore, nothing physical retained kedusha, and they're able to throw it away afterwards, so that we couldn't be us and the world and all the objects around us couldn't be absorbed and become holy, and we couldn't either ascend to the higher worlds. We couldn't have that crossover. Now, obviously, if you go into the nuances, there's many times where Hashem did reveal Himself to us. There was above coming down to below, and Hashem spoke to us and took us out of Mitzrayim. But we actually learn when Moshe said to Hashem, what should I tell the Jewish people? And they say, who are you? Why are you causing us this suffering? He says, tell them, Anochi is something very unusual. And we've mentioned this in previous classes. Anochi Hashem, I appeared to Avram. Va'erash el Avram el Yitzchak el Yaakov. I did appear. I did have a connection with Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Aval b'shmi Hashem lo nadati lahem. It was a very external revelation of kedusha. The essence of kedusha, my anochi, my essence of havaya, of yud hey vav hey, the essence of Hashem wasn't able to connect with the physical world. And I did all of this, bringing you down to Mitzrayim so that you can have the yerida, the descent. In order to have the ascent after going down to Mitzrayim was in order for the purpose that through the yerida, through the challenges, you can become a nation and grow to the state where you take all the rechush and the wealth and the materialistic wealth, which represents this holy sparks of kedusha, out of Mitzrayim, and with that you'll be ready for the ultimate reason that I created the world, which is Matan Torah. And then I will be able to reveal myself to you for the first time with Bishmi Havai. If you look in the text, Hashem only reveals to Avram Yitzchak with Hashem Elohim, with more levels of din, not with my essence. So from that perspective, even the revelations from above was a very external revelation. Hashem says, I'm doing all of this because I don't want to have a relationship. Imagine having a relationship with someone that you love, but you only get to see a very, very external part of them. We don't really get to see. There's so many parts of people. There's who I am. I'm your teacher, right? I'm the boss. I'm the Rebbetzin. I'm your chef. I'm your mora. But to get to know someone essentially, right? We can't really be one with somebody unless we know who they are at their core, who they are, their essence, their desires. Not just one hat that they play, one role, one position that they do externally. That's not defining who they are. And Hashem says, I want to connect with you, ba'atzmus. I want to be one with you. I want to unite with you as one. And that's only possible after I give you the Torah, after I move that barrier. And all of that had to happen in this way, that you have to have the Yerida of Mitzrayim, those challenges, the descent to come up with the Rechush Gadol. Like Hashem promised Avram that they'll go down about Yetzir Rechush Gadol. The Rechush is not the physical wealth only, it's the sparks of Kedusha that are in that wealth that allow them to now become, through the 49 days that we're having now of preparation, to reach that moment of unity with Hashem, with oneness. And the other difference that was one difference, that the level of Kedusha that came to us was much more external. And the other difference is that even in the physical world itself, there was no possibility for materialism to become imbued with Kedusha, to become holy. So the mitzvahs themselves were were not affecting the physical world. They were just in the neshama, just in the level of the soul. And even the purpose of the mitzvahs was only for the kavanah, for the effect of the mitzvah. This is a whole other topic, but just a little glimpse. There's actions. This is really based on what is the purpose of the mitzvahs. Is it to bring to the kavanah afterwards? So before Matan Torah, it wasn't for the purpose of the mitzvah itself. The main doing of the mitzvah was to reach the kavanah that comes from it. So if you're doing tzedakah or any mitzvah that you're doing, shema or davening, it's for the closeness, or tefillin for the closeness or the spiritually, going to the mikvah, it's for the spiritual effects that come from it. After Matan Torah, that shifted. That's why the physical act didn't matter as much. After Matan Torah, it's actually the opposite. Most of the mitzvahs, 99% of the mitzvahs, if you do the physical mitzvah, if you actually do the mitzvah of going to the mikvah, making a bracha, davening, and you don't have any thought, no kavanah, you're thinking about your shopping list and what you're making for Shabbos, your menu, you are yotze the mitzvah. And it says that somebody who puts on tefillin on the side of the road because there's a Chabad boy nudging him and harassing him, and he wants it to stop bothering him, and he puts it on, and he doesn't even want to do it, he fulfilled the mitzvah of tefillin. And then there could be a Jew in prison who doesn't have the ability to put on tefillin, but he has all of the deepest kavanot, every Shem Hashem of tefillin, everything that tefillin is supposed to accomplish. He does it. He's not punished for not doing it because he's an ones. He's not able to. But he didn't fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin. He didn't do the mitzvah of tefillin. And the person who just put it on but didn't have any kavanot, his only kavanah was leave me alone. He was yosef the mitzvah of tefillin, and his neshama was one with God, and he received all of the light, and it affected his body, and it brought him closer to Hashem. And that was one of the main shifts that happened after Matan Torah, that the purpose of the mitzvahs completely shifted. It's not only for the spiritual. Obviously, everything needs to have a body and a soul. We want our mitzvahs to be imbued with kavanah as much as possible. But the main being yotze, and the main thing is to physically connect, and the reason is that the barrier being removed allowed now for the entire purpose of Hashem creating the world, which is that there should be a unification, that there should be a physical world, a world of gashmias, a world of darkness, a world of discord that is able to have the opposite, to have kedusha in the physical world. We're not here to disconnect from gashmias. We're not here to not eat, to say I'm just a neshama, to punish my body, to neglect all my body's needs, and to say I'm just holy, I have to be good to kaddish all day. We're here for the opposite. We're here to be human beings living a human experience, and to bring kedusha into that, to have a cheesecake with Torah, and that is the entire purpose. We're elevating the cheesecake. And now when we do that, when we have this now that the barrier is removed, Hashem says now for the first time in all of history, for 2,500 years, now Hashem says, Anochi, my essence. When he said, Anochi Hashem Lokecha, he came down with his essence to unite with us. Now Hashem could connect with us essentially when we do the Torah and mitzvahs. And for the first time, the physical world as well can be elevated to spirituality. We can now bring Kedusha into every physical part of our life. And now when we do a mitzvah, rather than throwing out the klaf of the tefillin, we learn that when we do a mitzvah, our neshama becomes one with God, our body, the person doing it, the thing you did it with, the space you do is elevated and becomes holy and kadosh, and that's why Hashem made the world, to be shachanti v'socham, to be able to dwell and reveal himself and to be comfortable in this world, to make the world a vessel, a place where Hashem could be in and reveal himself, where we turn the things that look like they're not for Hashem and we say, no, they are created for Hashem. When we take cheesecake that's just like a physical thing, we say, no, this is kadosh. Hashem wants to be revealed in all of the physical things in our life. And that is where Judaism really differs from all other Judeo-Christian religions, where for all the other religions, the main they glorify the soul, the spirituality. Like we have to separate from our body. The priests can't be married. They're not supposed to drink wine. They're supposed to, as much as possible, separate from physical things. And in Judaism, it's the exact opposite. A priest or a Kohen must be married. They must be actively involved in a marriage. We have to be involved in the physical. In fact, one of the Sefer Dibros is Sheishes Yamim Ta'avod V'asita Kol Mlachtecha. And Shabbos is only one day a week. The majority of our lives, 6 out of 7 of our lives, of 6 out of whatever the math is, a percentage of our life is supposed to be involved in materialist and working with the world and being involved with the world and bringing Kedusha into the world. And that actually ties in on something I wanted to mention earlier, is that this month we often focus on the zodiac of the month. And according to the Torah, the astrological sign of the month is Gemini, which is Te'omim, which is twins. The Chachamim say that the Torah was given in the month of twins because there's no other month the Torah could have been given in other than twins, because twins represents everything that the Torah is given to. The archetypal twins in the Torah are Yaakov and Esav, and you would think the Torah is given to like Beis Yaakov, not to Esav. Esav, it doesn't. What does he have to do with the Torah? But we learned that the Torah wasn't given only, specifically given in twins to remind us that the whole purpose of the Torah is for a person who has both the Yaakov and the Esav. We learn in Tanya, in the very beginning of Tanya, that every one of us is pregnant with twins. Rivka Imenu was pregnant with Yaakov and Esav, and she said, "La mazeh bekirbi, la mazeh," I forget the exact word. She said, "What am I feeling? I'm feeling one twin pulled got to the shul, one twin pulled to Avodah Zarah. I can't handle this." And Tanya tells us we all experience that every day, men and women. We are constantly pregnant with two souls. We have a Yaakov soul that just wants to learn Torah and be one with Hashem. Then we have an Esav soul that just wants to eat cheesecake all day, lay in bed, and do things that feel good. And which one are we? Which am I my holy soul that wants to do kind things for everyone else, or am I my other soul that just wants to eat and watch TV all day? Which one am I? And we learn that we are both, and it's not a bad thing that we're both. Hashem wants us to be both, and Hashem directed the Torah specifically to a person that is able to fuse both of them. And as long as without the Torah, we live such a disconnected life. It's like I have my holy soul, my animal soul. I'm like a Rivka that's like, just help me. I don't know what's going on. But what made Rivka calm when she went to the Rav? I think it was Shem Ve'aver, and they told her, "You're not crazy. You have twins. You have two souls." And she was like, "Oh," and when we understand this, and we realize Hashem gave us two souls, an animal soul, our Esav soul, and our Yaakov soul, and we're supposed to not reject the Esav soul and say, "You go away, you be quiet, I'm just my Yaakov soul." No, I'm giving the Torah the month of twins because we're not supposed to reject our Esav soul. We're supposed to include our Esav soul in everything part of our life. And not only do we not reject it and not take care of it and not feed our Esav soul and say, "You're bad, reject that part of me, I don't want to be physical, I don't want to like all these physical things, I don't want to be materialistically driven." Not only do we not reject that part of ourselves, but rather we learn that without the Esav, our Yaakov is so finite, that the Esav brings that power and that strength, and that's what allows us to have a much higher revelation and connection to Hashem through our body, through the physical mitzvos. It's the ultimate of what Hashem wants to be revealed in the physical of the world. So our Esav is actually our greatest tool. So we learned that the Torah was given to a Yaakov and an Esav both, and we want to bring the Torah into our lives, not just into the holy parts of our life, and then the physical parts are just disconnected, but to have a holistic life where we're able to bring both of those together. We're able to fuse both, have beautiful materialistic things, and shine the light of Hashem through them. Recognize, thank Hashem for them, mention Hashem in them, use them for Kedusha, use them for holy things, for inviting guests, for shiurim, for raising our children in a Jewish way, and despite all of the difficulties and the hatred coming towards us. And when we do that, we show and we reveal Hashem in the Yaakov and in the Esav as much as possible. So that's just a tangent about why Shavuot was given. One of the reasons that Shavuot is given the month of twins. In fact, it actually says that twins also represent the two sides of the luchos. The right side of the luchos is all the positives. I know Hashem, those connect to our nefesh Elokit, to our Yaakov side, to our godly soul, and the left side, what starts with low, not to kill, not to steal, connect to our Esav. And the luchos were given to both sides of us to connect with both of us and all of us, and that's what we're doing in Sfiras Omer as well, right? And it's actually when we say Rashi says two parts. We're supposed to love Hashem not just with our Yaakov, but also with the two vets. It says we love Hashem with our Yaakov and with our Esav, and that is ultimately this class. I did it last year, and it was my most attended shiur. And I was like, wait a minute, every week I do a shiur, I have a smaller crowd, and this is my most attended shiur, and I clicked, and I said, because we have to acknowledge that we have within us a Yaakov soul and an Esav soul. The Yaakov, our godly soul, always wants to come to this shiur, but our Esav soul is way bigger and louder, and it resists, and it says, "I don't want to go listen to a shiur for an hour. That's really difficult. I know for me it's really difficult." But if we acknowledge our Esav soul and say, "There'll be cheesecake there," now our Esav soul is on board. Esav's like, "Count me in," right? And that's what, like, the premise of all the Chabad programs. Why do we do menorahs and martinis and all the other cool, like, foods, like shakes in the shack and sushi in the sukkah? Because sushi and the pizza in the hut. Because we realize that we are a godly soul, but we also have the Esav inside of. We have the human, animalistic human soul, which is probably a much sheishis yamim taiva. It's a much bigger part of our life. And if we don't get the Esav soul on board, the godly soul not coming anywhere, right? But if we convince the Esav soul, then he'll come for the sushi and he'll stay for the Torah. He'll come for the cheesecake, but really your nefesh Elokis wanted to come anyways. Once you convince your Esav soul there'll be cheesecake there, it's much easier to come. And that's really what we're trying to do, not to negate it and say, "No, come anyways." No, you're real. You have your needs. You need the cheesecake. And not only that, we have a whole other class we did on Shabbat about realizing that really the Esav, really the cheesecake that we want is for the Kedusha and the godly sparks in it, that we elevate. That the entire purpose of Hashem making this was for us to reveal the godliness in these sparks, in this cheesecake. So we're really doing the highest level when we come and eat the cheesecake. And when we learn Torah with it or make a bracha on it, we reveal the greatest kedusha. That's the real reason our neshama is drawn to those foods, right? And we're all drawn to specific foods based on the sparks that our neshama is supposed to elevate. So it's not just physical. Jews, physical is spiritual. So to summarize, we had the question about the ladies first. We had the question about what changed in Matan Torah, what actually changed. We learned that what actually changed is that Hashem removed the cosmic barrier between higher and lower worlds. And now, when we do a mitzvah, we actually draw godliness and affect and elevate every part of the physical creation. The main thing is to do a physical act, even if the kavanah is not able to be there, only in the first line of Shema, I believe, and I forget which other mitzvah, you're not yotze if you don't have kavanah. So the main thing is to draw Kedusha into our physical lives, to live a physical life, and to reveal Kedusha through that. Now, going back to and we mentioned that the level that now through the Torah mitzvahs we can actually connect to the essence of Hashem's of Anochi, not just to external revelations of Hashem, and to unite with Hashem's essence, because it says in the Torah the first word of the Sefer Zibros is Anochi, and we learn from this. The Gemara says that Anochi is an acronym for Ana Nafshi Ksavas Yahavis. I, my soul, wrote into the Torah. And every time we learn Torah, do a mitzvahs, we're connecting to the Anochi, the essence of a God that's beyond definition, that's beyond a name, beyond a specific role that Hashem plays as our teacher, our father, our shepherd. Hashem is just his essence. And every time we do a mitzvah, we're uniting, we're becoming one with the essence of, with Hashem's essence. Us and our entire body, whatever limb we're doing in that mitzvah, and certain mitzvahs that, like a mikvah, or that encompass our entire body. In that moment, every part of our body is uniting with the essence of God. And we also mentioned that the Torah is given specifically, therefore, to elevate both the godly and the animal soul, and to work in this world through the materialism. Now, we want to go back to the original question of with the shift, what happened with the shift to the feminine first. So now that we understand what changed, we learn this really cool, life-changing Kabbalistic idea about the masculine and feminine energies. We both have both. So we're not talking about men versus women. We're talking about the masculine energy in the world and the feminine energy in the world. Obviously, women probably are more in touch with their are more feminine and work in a more feminine way. But the Hashem made both energies, and we learn that the masculine energy, this is really cool, comes from, let's backtrack. When Hashem made the world, according to Kabbalah, there was a vacuum. He said he had to create, there was all God. He said, I need to make a world. So I have to take myself out of the picture, make a vacuum. In that vacuum, Kabbalah says the first thing was, so now there's nothing. Now Hashem wants to create a world in it. There's all darkness, there's nothing. Now Hashem, there was the first thing Kabbalah says that that went into this vacuum was a kav, a line, an arrow that penetrated the vacuum, and that it was the masculine energy comes from. That kav was the 10 spheros that Hashem used to start building the world and to build things and people and objects and everything in the world that come from the building blocks of the 10 spheros. The feminine, though, was created. Kabbalah actually says that even though God made a vacuum, Hashem's everywhere. You can't actually say that there's a place without God. There was actually a reshimo. Hashem hid himself very, very much, but there was a reshimo, which means a remnant, a hint, smell, remnant. Reshimo means a reshima. How do you say reshima? What? No, not the reshima. Like to make an impression on somebody, to leave an impression on somebody. A roshem, to leave an impression on somebody. There was an impression of kedusha. There was a remnant of kedusha still left in that space. That was the circular space, and that's where the feminine was born. So the feminine, the masculine, we learn, is the energy that comes to conquer darkness, to draw light from outside and bring it into this dark world. And that's that masculine energy that we have, that men have more, that it's a linear energy of moving from one place to the other. I want to grow, be better. It's a line. I want to have goals, achievements. That's why a lot of masculine thought is very linear. It's like there's only one way to get from A to B. It's a more black and white way of getting from place to place. It's I want to accomplish, I want to succeed, I want to conquer, I want to reach my goal in a direct line. I see my goal and I want to get to it. That's that masculine energy that we're born with, that comes from the kav. It's a line, and that's why it's the arrow or the line that is the masculine force. Even in the creation of a child, that masculine force comes in penetrating out, bringing light from outside, or seed or potential from life from outside, and drawing it in to create life. The feminine energy also wants to bring light into this dark space of the world that is helem. The world means olam. Olam is helem, the world that's concealed Hashem. We all want to reveal godliness in this place of concealment. The masculine is it by drawing light from outside, and the feminine energy is that says I don't necessarily need to go out and conquer the darkness and fight it by like going to war and fighting it. in the darkness itself, there's so much light and kedusha already. I just have to uncover it. It's hidden. It's a reshimu. It's a sense of it. I just want to reveal the goodness that's already there. That's the feminine way of conquering light. Rather than having to go outward and conquer and bring in, she said, let me take what's here and find and create that space. That's that circular energy of the feminine. That let me find the goodness that's inherent in the darkness already. Let me reveal the good, the light that's here right now. And that is really the essence of the difference between the masculine and feminine energies. And even the creation of a child, the woman doesn't bring new seed. She receives the seed. The feminine is also the receiving because she receives from the outside. But that's that womb, that circular structure that finds that inherent, reveals the inherent potential of life already there. In the example in the Gemara, I believe it says the man brings home. He goes out and makes the bread, brings home the wheat, and then the woman takes it and makes the bread. Similar to creation, where the man brings the seed and the woman cultivates that goodness and brings out the and cultivates a child and brings out a child from that, the potential. She cultivates the potential, exactly. So there's a lot of Kabbalah on this, how the man is the Yud Hey of the Shem's name, which is the potential. The woman is the Vav Hey, which is the expounding on that potential, taking that. Man is Chachma, the masculine inside of us is Chachma. When we have a new idea, but Chachma has to work with Bina to take that flash. If we have a new idea, we have to then break it down into a plan of action. That's the Bina, that's the more feminine. To take that potential of the man. In fact, there's a crazy story in Ish and Isha. In the word Ish and Isha, we know we're both a fire. The man has the Yud and the woman has the Hey. The Yud is the potential, it represents Chachma, that new idea, the creative understanding, and the Hey, and woman or the feminine is taking that and expounding that Yud into bringing out the potential. And that's why we say that a lot of men have potential and they need a woman to draw that out in them. Obviously that's stereotypical, it can work both ways, but that's the idea of the feminine and the masculine. There's a story of a man who complained to the third Chabad Rebbe that his wife doesn't like to have guests, and he's like, she doesn't like to open home to guests, and he said this to her, that Ish and Isha, the man is the potential and the woman expounds that potential. She said, if there's an issue, it starts within you. So if you could change yourself to be more generous, then your wife will expound on that and bring that out of more potential. So you have to go back to the source, which is in the masculine, which is you. So work on yourself, and then it will follow through. Obviously we love that. Obviously I love that story, but that's the idea of the feminine. But obviously it's not black and white, men and women, it's the masculine and feminine. Now, how does this all connect to Matan Torah? We need both, because if we're only masculine, if we have only the masculine trait, it's just conquer. It's just go out and do more. Nothing's ever enough. It's great. It's good. But we also, what about being present? Where's finding, like, we never stop. If someone is fully masculine, they don't ever get to stop and appreciate what is and be present what is. It's like the man who's working always, never sees his family, never present at home in what is. And if you're only feminine, then we're just complacent. We're like, there's so much light here. I see the good in my situation. I don't ever need to grow. I don't ever need to be more. I'm just happy with what is. I create this warm, welcoming space. That feminine, rather than, like, it's like two ways of solving a problem. Someone comes to the problem. The masculine is like, I have an idea right away. Before you finish saying, it's like, here's how you need to fix your problem. And the feminine in us is more of the womb, creating a space for nurturing, creating a space for healing, a space for nurturing. It's just making space for your issue. I'm holding space for you to hear you. But we need both, because sometimes we need solutions, and sometimes we need to make space. And that's why Hashem says, Zachar Nekeva Bar Osam. We're made masculine and feminine, because we need both, and we need the balance of both. Usually, okay, so going this idea in Kabbalah, I learned from a book called Circle, Arrow, Spiral, which teaches us that the arrow is that masculine energy of just wanting to ascend and climb into higher levels, and the feminine energy is that circular energy that is more present in what is and revealing what's, nurturing that space of growth, being in the home, nurturing that home, being like welcoming and inviting in guests, and welcoming and creating in that space. Now, one more connection to this month. Every month in the Torah, every month of the year has a physical bodily sense that we grow through. Besides the five senses, last month, anyone remember? I just blanked out. An ER was the sense of hearing. What? Hearing, smell is cheshvan. I actually don't remember. I blanked out. There's all different. There's sleeping and there's sexuality. There's all different senses. And this month, it's a sense of walking. It says that we grow in this month. The Torah says that in this month we all can actualize our sense of walking, of halicha. Now, obviously, it's physical walking, but it says which type of walking. Halicha and halacha share the same word. So walking means going from one place to another place, and that is something that Hashem gave humans as a gift to be able to do. Malachim, they can't grow. There's Malach Michael. He's great, but he can only be Malach Michael. He can't climb. He can't grow. He can't change who he is. He can't grow. they're stuck in who they are. Gavriel can only be Gavriel, Michal can only be Gavriel. We are not stuck. We can change, we can evolve, we can grow throughout life and completely change. That's our gift of halicha. And the way that we grow and progress is through halacha. Halichos Beis Yisrael halacha. Through halacha, we can mamash tap into our potential through growth, through keeping halacha, through learning halachot. We can really grow to be the best person that we can be. And it gives us, we have constantly potential to keep growing and keep walking to higher realms. And walking isn't only linear. Usually when you walk, you don't just walk from one end to the other end. Usually you walk in a circle because you have to get back to where you started. So even walking, sometimes you feel like I'm only growing, I'm only reaching my goal if I get to there. But often we're moving backwards in life. I know I always say, I'm always trying to be on time for my shiur, and every year I feel like I'm back where I started, but that's part of growing, right? Part of growing is that sometimes I'm back where I started, but sometimes you need to move like Lag BaOmer, you move backwards to go forwards. A lot of moving forwards or propelling involves going backwards. Even if you feel like you're going backwards, we need to move backwards. You're still making movement, and it's still better than staying in one place. Water that moves, as long as it's moving, it's beautiful. As soon as water stays, it becomes really disgusting and gross. Thank you so much for joining. So all this to say that now, how do we get the ultimate fusion? This is where it gets super cool of masculine and feminine. We know we can't be one without the other. We need both. One without the other is either totally dominating masculine or totally complacent, non-growing, no need to grow. Feminine. By the way, I have just to give a personal example, I have a lot of masculine. Like I'm a conqueror. I always have like another goal. I used to be like that and want to achieve, and I was never enough. Like I had the never enough. No matter if I'm not doing something, I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. And what cured it for me, because it was really, I was miserable. I was just never felt okay. I never felt good enough. And one of the things that cured it for me was being pregnant, because I'm like, I'm accomplishing something just by doing nothing, but by my existence is enough, because I'm creating a human being. And that's that feminine complacent. I'm enough, I'm a mom, and men unfortunately don't get to have that. They're never enough unless that's why, classic type, it's like the man needs to work to feel enough, but we really tap into that. So for me, like just tapping into like, I'm pregnant, I'm creating a life, I'm enough, and then even after having a baby, I'm like, let me think about, connect to the fact that I'm enough by existing. That's a whole nother shiur, but it is a very valuable idea of that being able to tap into our femininity, of knowing that my existence, I'm here today, I am enough, even if I can't change the world, just by being alive, being there for the people who need me, just by people knowing that I exist, that I can be there if they need to call me, that's enough. And that's feminine we want to tap into, but also from there and from being enough, then can come true growth. And growth not because I'm not enough unless I accomplish, but growth comes from I'm enough, and therefore let me share that with the world. Let me want to accomplish. I want to grow. I want to progress as much as possible. So I think that there has to be a balance of the two. Now Kabbalah says that, so there's a circle feminine, the arrow masculine, and when you get the two, when you combine the two of them, you get a spiral. You get a growth. You get to grow, but in a circular way, in a way that includes all that is aware and present in what is, that recognizes what I have, I'm present and I'm enough, and I'm also growing at the same time. And we actually learned that this is what a Sefer Torah is. When a Sefer Torah is rolled up, you get both. You have an arrow and a circle combined. So when the Sefer Torah is on its side, you have the arrow, because it's a tall, growth-oriented thing, but then on the other side, you have a circle. So this is what an arrow and a circle combined is. You're going upwards, you're circular, but you're also ascending and climbing and trying to achieve and be mahalech, be halicha, and be a human being that has the potential to evolve and grow every minute of the day. And that's the ultimate of the spiral. So that's where I just thought that was really connected to the Torah. Okay, now we're just gonna end the class by connecting to the original question we had. What changed the Matan Torah that we shifted to the feminine energy? Based on everything that we know now, on what historically was happening or spiritually in the world, we learned that until Matan Torah, we needed that masculine energy, because there was so much helem, there was so much darkness, we needed that masculine energy to come and conquer the darkness, to bring out light, to banish all the dark that was in the world. There was much more concealment. The flood of Noach was to, purify the world a little bit more from its concealment. So we needed that masculine energy to banish and to fight the darkness, because we couldn't bring Kedusha and reveal Kedusha in the darkness. There wasn't that possibility. So we all had to fight with that masculine energy to overcome the darkness, to fight it, to bring Kedusha into it, bring from outside. Now Hashem says, finally, the masculine energy has done its work. That came first. It paved the way. All the things in history that happened until now, Avram Avinu fighting the idols, breaking the klipot, so many levels of breaking the klipot of Mitzrayim, and the makos that broke everything, all that masculine energy and the flood that washed away the negativity. Finally, now we're ready for the feminine energy. energy, to the feminine era. The feminine era can now begin when we remove that barrier, and now we don't need that masculine energy to conquer as much anymore. Now we are ready to reveal. Now we are able to use the feminine energy not to conquer and break the darkness, but rather now we could find that in all of the materialism, all of the helim, we can reveal the kedusha in it. We can go and the women can take their jewelry and use it for the Mishkan. We don't have to fight it and conquer it. We can now use that, and that's why the feminine comes first. Hashem says now is the time to shift. Now, Tomar Lebeit Yaakov, first say to the feminine, because now it's a ladies' era, it's a feminine first. And the Rebbe says so often that as we get closer and closer to Mashiach, we're getting closer to the feminine era, right? We learned that the whole masculine first came from the moon and the sun, right? The masculine and feminine were supposed to be equal, but the moon said we both can't be equal. So Hashem put the moon, made the moon smaller, and the masculine, which is the sun, which has many sources to it, at first front. But when Mashiach comes, we learn that the feminine will be revealed for its truth, for being very powerful. The moon will be greater than the sun, or equal to the sun. And as we get closer and closer to the era of Mashiach, we see more and more the Rebbe said that the real reason for the the feminist movement was because of this, because now we're awakening that desire. It's from a deeper desire that we need the feminine energy to now reveal more and more the Kedusha in the world, to reveal that space of finding Hashem in every moment of our lives. No matter what we're going through, that we can breathe and see this is Hashem. Hashem's hand is in this, and we can reveal the Kedusha inherent in the Rishimu in this moment, rather than needing to just conquer. And the Rabbi said that the feminine, just like in the Mitzias Mitzrayim, right before Matan Torah, what Miriam led the women in song, also Miriam led the women towards the Geula. Also now it'll be the women that lead the Geula, because that's the feminine energy that we need to usher in the Geula. And we don't need to like conquer someone and yell at them and convince them that they're right and fight with people on social media. We just need to reveal more light, right? We can banish darkness in two ways. I mean, there's one way. When there's darkness in the world, you can either try and fight the darkness, which is pointless because you can't fight darkness, or you can just light one small candle and reveal the light that's there, then the darkness disappears. And so much, I feel like on social media, the wars, or in the media and the news, there's so many wars of like, there's so much darkness, we want to just counter it and have more things and fight them. You can't fight with darkness. No matter how many truth we show them, no matter how many videos, no matter how much truth we show, we're not going to be able to banish darkness, because darkness, all it needs is that we just keep shining our light, keep revealing the beauty of Am Yisrael. Shine on. We just have to turn on more light, and then the bad darkness has nowhere to be. And we have to stay focused in that feminine energy of just continuing to bring more and more neshamas into this world. One of the ways, by the way, that's a side thing, but bringing neshamas into this world because the Rizal says when all the neshamas are born, Mashiach will come, and each neshama is a light to bring more light into this world. Each Jewish soul is an answer to, Hitler, another Jewish light in this world. So we want to just do our job as women, obviously, I don't mean just bring moms, I mean, conquer the world, reveal more light in everywhere that we go. Obviously, as a feminist, I don't think our job is to start with our homes and then spread that light to every corner that we encounter. Let's have that feminine era. We usher in the Mashiach, the revelation of all that's good. Let us see the good behind all of the pain that we're suffering, that we're experiencing now. Let us finally see the other side and the revelation of all this. Thank you for joining.